we are manifestations of something that is way, way, way beyond our comprehension.
Yeah.
There is so much going on that we just don't understand and don't have any way to perceive.
Yeah.
How do you transcend the day-to-day? How do you find meaning in life that's deeper than just the day-to-day experience?
Hi guys, welcome to another Beneath the Surface podcast. I've got a very special guest here, David Gleason. I met him at the Northeast Cafe where I work, I'd say about a month ago. Maybe
about that.
A month. We just had some really cool conversations, and I reached out, and he was down to come on the podcast, so welcome, man.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. We were gonna start with the evolution, and that kind of thing, because you majored in philosophy, right, and religion.
Philosophy and physics in college,
okay.
And then a master's in religion.
Okay.
So I've been trying to figure out answers to life's big questions for a long time now.
Like us all, right?
I know, right? It's sort of what we do, right?
It is. It's like the human thing is to ask why the hell we're all here.
Yeah. And how did we get here, and where are we going?
Yeah.
And is there a divine plan, or is it all just chance?
Neurons and yeah. That's a good question. That's one of the questions that I've asked the most in my life is just, and I feel like most people is just like, why are we here? How are we here? And there's many, many, many different answers.
Yeah.
And some of them are religious, some of them are spiritual, some of them are scientific.
Right.
So there's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get overwhelmed, but it's also one of the topics that I'm most passionate about too, just because it's such a loaded question.
Yeah.
And it has to do with all of us,
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows, right? The answers are elusive at best. I think the biggest problems arise when people say that they, or feel that they know the absolute truth, and then start imposing that on everybody else.
Yeah.
So you think about religious fundamentalism, regardless of whether it's, Christian or Buddhist or although the Buddhists are the one religion that really downplay their self-righteousness. Because the basic tenet of Buddhism is that the universe doesn't have any particular meaning. And so it doesn't make sense to propound a philosophy and tell everybody else they have to follow that philosophy if the center of the whole thing is basically emptiness.
Okay.
And achieving, nirvana is the process of emptying yourself.
Yeah, of kind of releasing the duality, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And non-attachment.
Non-attachment.
So in Sanskrit, it's nishkama karma.
Oh, okay.
Which means action without attachment, or action without desire.
Wow, okay.
And so if you want everybody else to believe the same things that you do, then you've violated the fundamental
tenet
already.
Pillar.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Buddhism is really interesting to me. I went to the temple in Peterborough for quite some time, just interested, and for about not too much time. It was about a month and a half or something. Just for fun, out of interest and random points whenever I just felt like it. But yeah, I met the master there, and I did have a profound experience over there.
Good.
It was really the people. Like I went there and I kind of just went to the garden and was on my own. But then this woman came down, one of the nuns, and she asked if she, wanted to, if I wanted to have lunch with them, and I did, and they were so welcoming.
Yeah.
And there's a certain kind of energy, with them, and it really, made me feel, like, oh, this is, really interesting thing, more interesting than I thought. I'm gonna research more and dive in a little more.
Yeah, I noticed you have a book about the Dalai Lama here. Yeah.
So that really piqued my interest, because religion in general really is something that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, there's so much that goes on throughout the last thousands of years per religion, and I think there's I think a lot of religions have like a similar core, like subtracting the people who act on the religion in a immoral way, let's say kill in the name of Christ, or any of that. So, but the fundamental teachings of, we'll use that, of Jesus weren't that.
Killing people?
Yeah.
Jesus doesn't advocate killing people anywhere in the New Testament.
Yeah, and and it's such a, thing that people do, is people have practiced things in the name of a religion or spiritual practice.
Yeah, so it's really about power.
Yeah,
and
it's
control.
so easily manipulated.
Yeah, because we need, as human beings, we need meaning.
Yeah.
We need to find meaning. Kierkegaard said either we have faith or we have despair. And what he meant by that was that faith is a belief that what your life is about has value.
Yeah.
And that you have the opportunity to engage fully through religious experience in relation to something that you believe in that's deeper beneath the surface than just the day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And that can provide you with a sense of satisfaction, comfort, safety, all of that kind of thing. You think of the Eucharist, right, in Catholic or Protestant Mass, and that experience of being one in the body of Christ is very powerful for people, both as a community, right, as a shared experience, but also personally, as a sense that you're fully participating in the religious give and take.
Yeah.
But I personally don't believe that, but I do find that I need constantly to try and make meaning in my life so that I have a sense that there's a purpose and a higher calling. But most of that, frankly, is a construct. I impose that on my experience. And as I get older, I find I have to do that more actively.
Okay.
So that I don't slide into, all the stuff that the brain does, anxiety, worries about the future, or, my boss is a pain in the neck, whatever that might, So the real issue is, how do you transcend the day-to-day? How do you find meaning in life that's deeper than just the day-to-day experience that you have?
Wow, yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that, that's another topic that's really interesting to me, because I think a huge part of meaning, at least for me, and that I've kind of found, is tied in strongly with taking responsibility. And because there's like this kind of safety to not, like, people who don't do anything and are, a slave to their own impulses, let's say. I feel like
we're all there.
Yeah, we're all there.
Yeah, I don't think you can say some people are and some people aren't.
To an extreme, let's say.
It's a continuum.
So it's a I've been there, and I'm there today, to an extent, we're all a slave to our own impulses to some level.
Yeah.
But when one...
Actually, I'd say that our impulses are manifestations of our habits.
Yeah.
and our habits are things that we cultivate over time.
Oh, yeah,
as
yeah.
Aristotle said that the virtuous life is one that's made up of good choices over time.
Yeah.
And he defined habit. Actually, the word ethics and habit are very closely related. So he defined habit as virtue. So you build virtuous habits, and over time you become a virtuous person.
Okay, yeah. No, it's good to see. This is stuff I'm like, I need. It's good for me to absorb because that's interesting because it's like an over time thing, and it's like it's
right. So if you want to lose weight, you can't just decide you're gonna be slimmer.
Yeah.
You have to change your habits.
Yeah, put effort in.
And you have to overcoming habits and making those changes requires effort.
So yeah, it's like for me when I'm feeling, meaningful.
Yeah.
And when I feel like my day has meaning in it and I'm excited about my day. A lot of the time it's when I have the most responsibility.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, well I have this planned,
Right.
I'm like I'm pumped up about it.
But that's because you're authentically interacting with other people. Yeah. Right? If you have responsibility, you can define that responsibility in relation to only objects.
Yeah.
But that doesn't feel very satisfying.
No, yeah.
But if somebody is depending on you to do something and you do it and you do it well, and that person then appreciates the effort and the effectiveness of what you've done, it's huge. And that's actually, I think, the answer to this question. It doesn't answer life's existential questions, but it does point to we are meaningful in relation to one another.
Yeah.
And that makes sense from an evolutionary perspective because we came out of tribes, right?
Yeah.
And in order for a tribe to work, people have to fully participate, contribute and be responsible to one another.
Yeah.
Like the group of hunters that goes out is responsible for bringing back food for the tribe. Or, the women who are taking care of each other during childbirth, right? Childbirth is not something that you can really do alone.
Yeah.
And so, all these things that that define us as relational beings, then bring meaning back into our lives.
Wow, yeah, that makes sense.
You called it beneath the surface, so
hey man,
you're getting what you asked for.
You're making it very easy. I like it. It's really incredible where meaning lies in one's life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's so many different ways to find meaning,
right?
And then there's people find meaning in 1,000 different religions, 1,000 different mentalities, 1,000 different responsibilities.
Right.
So it's hard to pinpoint one thing.
There isn't.
Because that's exactly it's like that's the thing. Is it begs the question there just can't be. Right. It's just or it doesn't seem like it.
It's the whole our whole experience. We're never satisfied.
Yeah.
We never have a single event that then we just sit back in our armchairs for the rest of our lives and we're good.
So the arms back. Yeah.
It's a constant, unfolding.
Yeah.
And in that dynamic, changing world, that's where you have to kind of navigate. And it's in that navigation that you either feel good, you're pretty happy, you're satisfied, but it's not a fixed moment. It's a continuous process.
It's the walk, not the destination type thing.
Exactly, the journey, not
the journey, not the that's I'm really interested in the psychiatrist Jordan Peterson.
I don't know.
You would really like him, I think. Okay. So a huge part of his practice is he teaches and shows by example that meaning, a lot of where meaning is found is having one foot in order and one foot in chaos.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
having that middle ground.
Yeah.
Because if you have too much chaos, you'll snap, you know?
Yeah.
But if you have too much order, you'll stay stagnant.
Absolutely.
So it's like having this fundamental middle ground
Yes.
is where a lot of meaning lies. And
Right.
I found that to be true.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and in fact, life itself is in that middle ground.
Yeah.
So if you have a species that's too chaotic,
Yeah.
they won't be able to reproduce.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you think of an ant colony and the ants all get distributed and separated and they can't get back to the colony, the colony itself will die.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's spread too thin, right?
Because it's too chaotic, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, a human being comes along and throws out an ant trap. That's going to introduce all sorts of chaos into the colony, which eventually will kill it. On the other hand, if it's too orderly, species will also go extinct because they're not adaptive, and then some event will come along, change the environment, and the species is stuck in their genetic code, and they cannot survive because they're too structured for a changing environment, which is one of the adaptations that makes human beings so extraordinary, right? Because what we can do is we can adapt not just physically over time the way most species do, but we can adapt our thinking to meet challenges and overcome obstacles like climate change, for example, these days. As a species, we need to think about how we're going to adapt our coastlines
to the surroundings,
to rising sea levels.
Wow,
and
that's fascinating.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Chaos and order is such a term that can cover a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like too much chaos, like you said, can be an ant trap, and and then disperse the ants, and then they just die out. That's really interesting. And we're incredibly adaptive. I feel like
actually, I think that kind of is one of the fundamental characteristics of being human beings. Yes.
And why we're here after God knows how long.
Millions of years that human beings.
How long do you think human beings have been in this around this form? Like
about 3 or 4 million years.
3 or 4 million?
Yeah, but it's only like 100,000 years that we started organizing, and only 10,000 years since agriculture.
Okay, and that kind of organization.
And that structure. Yeah, because we were nomadic tribes.
Yeah.
Following the food sources, right?
Yeah.
And but then with agriculture, we got locked down to a specific piece of land, and then that introduced a whole series of other issues for us, because suddenly there was something of value that was based in a particular place. So you had to then protect your land, like you'd grow crops, whatever,
and organize,
and then the neighboring tribe would get kind of excited about eating your crops, and then you'd have to defend them.
They'll be like, okay, well, you need to give me 6 rocks for that piece of corn, or whatever. Whatever the first currency was, gold.
More like, we want that, you're in the way.
Oh, okay, so the opposite. Got it. All right, so we want your crops, so we'll take you out.
Yeah.
There's something that really interested me recently was, I saw this photo online. Many people believe that we're going through, like, the apes now are going through the Stone Age. And there are these photos and there's visuals of these apes that have carved out, they've used tools and carved out spears. And there's a photo of an ape spear fishing.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
whoa.
It's like, all right, well, is that how we happened? There was like this cognitive ability.
I mean, there was a branching, right? And but apes don't have the anything like the amount of brain volume that we have.
Yeah.
So I think those wanting to, fundamentally, I want to survive.
Yeah.
Hunger is an amazing motivator, right? And the apes, want. have the very basic tool use and language skills. They've taught some how to do sign language. So these.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
wow, it's pretty insane.
I mean, rudimentary, right?
Yeah,
just a few words,
yeah.
but the point is that these skills are not uniquely human. We're just a whole lot more evolved.
Yeah.
Largely because we probably killed off most of the competition over
the years. Okay, like through kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like through we want that, so kind of the takeover.
Like the Neanderthals were probably wiped out by Homo sapiens.
Oh, okay, yeah. This is really this is so, because there's so much. I like history a lot too, so I like looking at how not just human beings, but how cultures have evolved throughout the years, and how they've related with other cultures, whether they wipe them out, or come together, or spiritually. So it's incredible thinking about how much change has happened, ever, because we're such like a blip in existence, So it's
the universe is probably like 13 or 14 billion years old. So.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's a long time.
It's a long time. It's insane. It's incredible. So thinking that we live in this time where in a time at all.
Yeah.
That we're actually like here at all. I like having those, a lot of people refer to these questions as like kind of like, I don't know, that they're kind of obvious questions, but they're interesting. Like the fact that this moment is here and everything that has ever been and everything that ever will be is just one moment. That's kind of expanded.
Kind of like an hourglass.
Yeah, right?
Right, so you got your past, and the present is the neck, and then
the bottom is the future. Right?
Or something where it's collecting, yeah. I don't buy it. I think that's far too simple.
Yeah, probably.
I actually think that we are manifestations of something that is way, way, way beyond our comprehension.
Yeah.
There is so much going on that we just don't understand and don't have any way to perceive.
Yeah, biologically or.
Yeah, biologically we're limited. So we, for instance, our eyes, human eyes, see the visible spectrum. We don't see ultraviolet light. Some animals do.
Yeah.
And we also don't see infrared light.
Yeah.
So there's a whole in right here today, right now. There's all this stuff
going on
that we can't see because it's outside of our perceptions. Science has done a lot to help us, peel back the layers and understand what's going on. But like bats have echolocation.
Yeah.
We don't have echolocation. Yeah. Although
and hammerheads, right? Too.
Yeah. And all sorts of sensory apparatus that human beings don't have. Yeah. So the point is only that there's more going on than we have perception
Infinitely
to understand.
More.
Yeah. Furthermore, each of our lives unfolds in its own way, and it intersects with other lives. But those intersections are not. They're not necessarily, they're not structured. They're not rational. They don't happen in a context of an absolute frame.
Yeah.
There isn't a grid in the universe through which we all move.
Yeah.
It's more like each of us is a whirlpool that comes and interacts and has some effect, but then moves on, and it's lovely. It's beautiful. And it's scary as hell, because what it means is that, there's no fundamental meaning behind all of it. It's an evolution unfolding, a process, and that there's no way of knowing where it's going. So you can say a lot about what's going to happen this afternoon, a fair amount about the next week, some ideas about a month from now, 10 years from now. Where will we, you lay out a strategic plan, your business objective.
Yeah. Nothing ever goes as planned.
And then, and then you navigate your way to try to get there. And that having an objective is really important.
Yeah.
It turns out, I think, that if you set up an objective, a goal that is important for people, right, to help people in some way, doesn't matter almost, but it doesn't hurt anyone, or except inadvertently. Sorry. The goal, and then sharing that goal with other people,
Yeah.
is where you create your meaning. So, for instance, a high school football team, for example, the goal is to win the championship, and you focus. You're working with other people. Your parents are there. You're striving to achieve something. In the end, you win the championship. Everybody's pumped. Yeah. It's a wonderfully satisfying experience, and then it's over, and you got to figure out what to do next. But even if you don't win the championship, you have the experience of participating with other people in something that's bigger than yourself. And that, I think, is the best we can do in terms of finding meaning. And then you translate that into religion, and again, the Eucharist, for example, people have an experience of something bigger than themselves.
I should have asked earlier, what is the Eucharist?
Oh, the communion.
Communion.
The wafer and the wine.
Got it.
Yeah. So the sense of participation, of being part of something bigger, of your life fitting in with other people, the sense that you're doing something that's making life better for other people and yourself. That, I think, is where real meaning lies. There are lots of people who will tell you that that's baloney, and that really what you have to do is look out for yourself.
Okay. That's always been confusing to me, because if we only look out for ourselves in that kind of way all the time, it's because we're social creatures.
Correct.
We socially evolve to get along with people.
Right.
The people who succeed the most are able to get along the most with their peers.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know if I buy that, because we're bent to work with others, like you were saying.
Right.
And if we have this sort of mentality that, I'm only going to focus on my own things personally, because there's one thing, it's good to focus on yourself. It's really good. It's integral, but it shouldn't be only that. That's where the confusion comes. Because if we're not healthy and happy, and we can't help others and participate in the football game, but if we're not even participating in the football game at all, in a way of just not interacting and just kind of staying at home, I don't think that there's much meaning in that, because, like you said, there's meaning in having a goal and having people support that goal around you.
And striving
with you.
Yeah.
And feeling...
participating.
And that ties into not feeling alone.
Right.
Because no one wants to feel alone.
Not fundamentally.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's very scary.
Yeah.
Loneliness is a hell of a...
Actually, it's epidemic for older people now.
Really?
In London, I think in the UK, they did a study last year that I can't remember the numbers, but huge numbers of elderly people don't interact with other people virtually at all, and it's a huge health determinant. Loneliness can lead to all sorts of health problems. But I think I want to go back to something that you said, that we go back and forth between our taking care of ourselves. You have to take care of your body, your mind, your emotional well-being, your spiritual health, which is, again, that sense of meaning. But it can't stop there. Right, yeah. That's sort of a starting point.
Exactly. It's a great starting point.
Right.
If you continue and spread that with your peers.
Right. Right.
But it's a terrible point if you just do it by yourself.
Right. Right. So you go to the gym to get strong so you can play football. And that's taking care of yourself, but it's in order that you can then participate in the greater activity.
Yeah. The greater
which
goal.
I'm sorry a little bit that I chose the football metaphor because because of the concussions and all that kind of thing. So
oh no, you're good.
So you can actually
no, that is a great metaphor actually, because you can use it with, it's just like a group of people with a goal, and find meaning in that goal.
Exactly.
I think sports is a great metaphor.
Yeah.
Because it ties in with a lot of the greater.
Right, and then you develop a love for your teammates, and that's engaged in the love from your family, sitting in the stands, supporting you, and so there's this sense of connection that provides, a sense of well-being, of participation. It also gets you off the couch, right?
Yeah,
and gets you to the gym or gets you to run around outside and get ready for the big game kind of thing.
Yeah, because the couch is dangerous.
Especially with the television in front of it.
Yeah. Not couch alone is like semi-dangerous, but with the television in front of it, that's where you should turn around if you've been there for 12 hours straight or something.
Yeah. But I wanted to say something about evolution. Because we take for granted that we are incredible. We are incredible. We have neurons that stretch from our brainstem all the way down our backs and then go to ganglia, which distribute and process the information that we're sending or getting from the brain. The muscles are all coordinated with each other.
Yeah.
The cerebellum, down back here in the back of your is coordinating all those activities. So we talked about habit before.
Yeah.
Throwing a javelin.
Yeah.
Like an ape. So if you do that motion 1,000 times, then your wiring is going to change in order to coordinate all that muscular activity.
Yeah.
Not to mention, our internal organs and our, but all of it is an unfolding. It's a process. It's not a thing so much as it is a dynamic interplay between you, your perceived individuality, and the world that you're living in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's more of a, you need all the parts for it to work.
Correct.
Like if we just had a liver, we'd just be liver. You know what I mean?
I hate liver.
So like you need all these moving parts. It's like a machine, but next level.
But it's not a machine.
Yeah.
It's because machines.
Next.
Yeah. It's. So if you think about, I don't know if you've ever seen any of the animations of proteins at work in our cells.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. Very, very, very fun.
Yeah. Infinitely more complex than any machine, right? And it's crazy.
And so subtle and so effective, right? So I strongly recommend just on YouTube, molecular machines, animation, and so at any moment there are trillions and trillions of chemical reactions going on in our bodies, of which we're completely unaware, and we take them totally for granted.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I've been struggling with is, how do I maintain a sense of gratitude that I'm able to do things? I can walk, I can hike up Crotchet Mountain. I can, how is it that I'm able, and can I cultivate a sense of awe and wonder and gratitude around that?
Yeah.
Because I find that that's very satisfying. That when I feel gratitude, I'm generally happy.
Yeah. Gratitude is huge.
And when I feel like somebody is underappreciating me, I feel pretty pissed off.
Yeah, yes, that is very same, and that's very normal. I really liked something you mentioned earlier. Was like the javelin throwing.
Yeah.
Do that 1,000 times, like the muscle memory.
Yeah.
My grandmother, who lives with us, who we take care of, she has Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
She's about 94. She hasn't been out of bed in a couple of years.
Wow. That's tough.
But it's something that one of the things that really stuck with me was, I remember when she was pretty heavily into the disease, Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
But she was walking.
Yeah.
We put her in front of a piano, and like she wouldn't really know who I am. She wouldn't know like her surroundings, at least on the surface. But she just started playing this beautiful song.
Wow.
And we were like, Granny, what are you doing? She was just kind of like looking around playing this music. And it was incredible because that's that muscle memory that thousands of times, because she loved the piano.
Yeah.
Thousands of times playing the piano.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay,
and
Granny.
that part of her brain still intact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So she, we keep her going. We try our best to keep her smiling and exercise her legs and her arms. It was really incredible seeing that.
Yeah.
One
of the things that doesn't disappear early in Alzheimer's is a sense of self, the individual separate from others, and I think that's a fundamental part of our brain structure. That there's that sense of separation. So as that disappears in Alzheimer's, you get things like your grandmother playing the piano, where even though she doesn't have much of a sense of herself or other people or anything else, that wiring is still intact in some part of her brain.
That's one of the things that sorry for the million sniffles, by the way, guys. I'm a little stuffy. I'm just gonna blow my nose just for a second. It's incredible. I don't know how it works. It makes me even more interested in biology and the brain and how we know so little, about
something like 80 or 100 billion neurons in our brains.
Yeah, and how me and my friend were talking about like the idea the other day, the idea that you can zoom in or zoom out forever.
Yes. Have you ever looked at the Mandelbrot fractal zooms?
No.
Oh, that is so cool.
I'll look that up. It's like this insane contraption that zooms in, or is it like, what is it exactly?
Well, do you know what a Mandelbrot set is?
No, actually.
Okay, so it's a fractal pattern from chaos theory, Benoit Mandelbrot.
Okay.
And essentially it's a pattern that repeats itself over and over and over as you zoom in and infinitely.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And lots of variation, but the and without getting too deep, the idea is you start with a very simple equation and you run it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And if it goes to infinity, that's one outcome. If it goes to zero, that's another. Or if it stabilizes, that's a third. And you can graph the result. And then what people are doing these days is they're using our vast computing power to graph not just a single Mandelbrot set, but a single graph, but to then zoom in on the parts of the thing and they just continually unfold. It's all so the point. This is very similar to the way that like cells work.
Yeah.
Or think about a fern. How a fern grows up out of the ground.
Yeah.
Right. You get this branching pattern, and it's the same basic equation.
Repeated
over and over and over again until the thing is grown. Based on the genetic code, in the fern, right?
So and it just follows that path.
It just follows the pattern.
Yeah. That's like, I don't know if this is similar at all, but it makes me think of snowflakes. And how like that's kind of a,
so a snowflake a snowflake accretes fractally. So the first few molecules, water molecules, assemble in a hexagon.
Okay.
Because that's the physical shape of the water molecule.
Okay. Yeah.
And then fractally, they add on, right?
Yeah.
And they build on that.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Like I think about that when it comes to, like you mentioned a friend, like trees and plants.
Yeah.
Because you just see these things
that
are continually doing the same thing essentially.
Right.
Essentially, but oh man, and then I think of how trees kind of like, I don't know, visually, just like looking at the visuals of nature and biology, like if you think about the roots, it's kind of another tree.
Yeah.
And underneath the soil. So it's like this kind of duality of like, I've been thinking a lot about how the physicality of things in biology and stuff like that really represent a lot of psychology and spirituality, like night and day, or like the plant of like the tree. It's like, I don't know. There's other ones too that I'm
There's
blanking.
Tons,
There's
right?
so
it's
many.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's all in relation to the environment.
Yeah. And I guess we are the environment too. You know.
Well, we are in relation to the environment.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's something I just forget.
Right.
Because the biggest, false or farce is that we're all disconnected.
Oh God.
Because we're just.
The tomato that I ate yesterday was definitely not of my own making.
Yeah. Seriously, it's like, it's incredible how we all have this. I don't know. We're not separate,
Yeah. Well, and that's actually, one of the things, self-awareness, which is so important to our evolution and our ability to adapt, also has the effect of making us feel separate.
Yeah.
And
like I'm alone,
right?
Yeah.
And you can follow that actually to death. You can go, I'm alone until you are really physically so unable to do anything that you can't, that you die. So so try not to do that.
Yeah. Pro tip, beneath the surface pro tip. No, you are not alone.
You are not alone.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's just, you're not. So much depression and anxiety comes from that, the separation.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
Right.
That's something that I've picked up on, that kind of pattern, is that a lot of that kind of thing is because we're convinced we're alone. Like a lot of the depression I've had, is like me convincing myself, oh, you're the only one.
Right.
Who's going through, or who has.
Right.
Lies.
Yeah.
We tell ourselves so many lies.
Yeah. Cognitive distortions. Another way to go with that is narcissism.
Yeah.
And to say, I'm alone, but I am the most important person around.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the me first kind of philosophy that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The other thing is, in terms of this sort of how things grow, and back to Aristotle's idea of habit, everything that grows is based on whatever happened before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when I think about my options for my future, I can't just be a dentist or a lawyer because I want to.
Yeah.
I can't just drop 10 pounds because I decide I'm dropping 10 pounds. If I wanted to be a dentist, I'd have to go through the whole process. And so those habits, those things that we take in and build on, are critically important.
Yeah.
So if you go through like your 20s, sleeping with everybody you possibly can and hurting people on the way, that's going to become part of who you are in your 30s.
Yeah.
And you're going to carry that with you. Now, it may be that you're a complete narcissist, and that's fine with you and you don't really care.
Yeah.
But for most people, it doesn't feel very good to develop and then practice bad habits. It starts to feel really meaningless and can lead to depression and despair.
Yeah, that's I think that's a really good point, because I feel like most people, at least in the long run, like find out that if we only, it goes back to impulses. If we only like those heavy impulses, because we're all impulsive at some point, during the day or
Right.
wherever. But
actually, I would say 99% of what we do is unreflective. If you think if you think about your grandmother playing the piano, she doesn't have the capacity anymore to think about how her fingers are moving.
Yeah.
But they're moving.
There it is.
Right?
Yeah.
So you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you're not thinking about each bristle touching each tooth.
I guess I never thought of it like that. That's interesting.
It really what's going on is you're focused on the highest level of how you're trying to get from A to B.
Yeah.
I need to brush my teeth. That may be the only real cognitive thought that you have.
Yeah.
And everything else is automatic.
Yeah, you just go and do it.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. And that's a really good point. How much of our lives is just based on habit or impulse, and
Most
it's a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is fine. And if it didn't work that way, if you had to pay attention to every little detail, you'd never be able to move at all.
I should have specified like a negative impulse. So like what you said, like sleeping with everyone you ever meet kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's, I'd say, is a negative impulse, because it becomes like brushing your teeth. It becomes just like something that can be meaningful and vulnerable and.
Sorry, I'm not following.
Oh, like sleeping with a million different people,
is meaningful or
no, like something that can be, like.
Oh, like sleeping with somebody is
like sleeping with many people that you don't know or whatever,
right.
Or whatever it is. I've had friends tell me that like the more you know that person, and the more vulnerable you are and connected you are with the person, versus if you're sleeping with someone that you barely even know,
right?
It's
and you won't see again.
Yeah, like that. That takes away from the meaning that can be there with someone that you really truly are connected with.
Right.
So it's true. And
which brings us back to human connection.
Yes.
Which is really sort of what this whole conversation, finding meaning in connection. Yeah.
And we search in many different ways. Mm-hmm. And I think
some of them more fruitful.
Some of them more fruitful. We learn as we go, as I'm doing with this podcast. But yeah, meaning. Who knows? There's so much that we just can't even process. I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, also about how like if we really processed everything and knew everything, we would be seizing out and foaming at the mouth on the ground.
True. Yes, we'd
be like, what?
Completely hopeless.
It would be just so much. Yeah. Because the truth, the absolute truth, whatever that is, and even if there is any, it's like processing that. Only like that compared to like just, okay, I brush my teeth, our day-to-day lives, it's just like, up there, in comparison.
Right.
So processing that would just have a biological effect on us and probably kill us.
Right. Which brings us back to transcendence, right?
Yeah.
So you transcend the toothbrush.
Yeah.
And then you transcend the morning routine.
Yeah.
And then you transcend the day, and you recognize that there's something much bigger at work that we just don't understand.
Yeah.
But you can have an experience of participating in that through meditation, or any number, the Eucharist for people who are true believers, the sense that you are participating in the universal, the transcendent, and that I think is one of the highest experiences. I think people, going back to the person who's looking for happiness in sleeping around, what they're missing is that the transcendence in the relationship, the bigger thing that arises out of the two people interacting with each other.
Yeah.
So it's meaningless because it doesn't point to anything bigger than yourself.
Yeah. It doesn't have a grand scheme. It just has a momentary goal that's
momentary
fleeting.
satisfaction.
Yeah.
It's very fleeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a really good point. It's just that long-term meaning is kind of, divorced from yourself if it is just for that momentary.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
And that applies to the shopping spree.
Yeah.
It applies to any number of things where you're just trying to make yourself feel better by doing something.
Yeah. Yeah.
As opposed to trying to make yourself feel better by building something.
Yeah. Long-term.
Long-term.
Working on meditation or working on,
right.
Things because things are healthier than others. That's a fact,
Yeah, for sure.
But cool. Yeah. I think I'm just going to call it. So thank you for being on, man. I really appreciate it.
Okay. My pleasure.
I really enjoyed this conversation. And thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you guys are enjoying, because I really like doing these. And either way, I'm going to pump these out. So thanks again, man.
Thanks, Alex.